Most American millennials and Gen Xers probably hung out at the mall, or if you're a Brit, the shopping center, at some point in our youth. I remember doing the bit and buying bargain bin PlayStation 3 games at GameStop, overpriced vinyl records at Urban Outfitters, and getting called out by 13-year-olds for having fake Yeezys. Hey, I was like 16, cut me some slack. That was my experience with the mall in my youth, but times they are a-changin'. My biggest concern in my safe Pacific Northwest suburb was not blowing my entire paycheck from my high school job on clothes from H&M and J. Crew. Kids these days have it a whole lot worse. Some of you probably know what I'm talking about by now, but odds are a lot of you don't. Today's story, despite being horrific, really beyond words, was predictably buried in the mainstream media. Even worse than buried, this terrible, violent attack is being presented by the lying media as some sort of accident. This past Friday morning, a 5-year-old boy came tumbling off a third-story balcony at the Mall of America in Minneapolis. The Mall of America, where it's increasingly difficult to find any actual Americans. The boy, being identified by his family only as Landon, was shopping with his mother when he was approached by Emmanuel Deshawn Aranda. Emmanuel then allegedly picked up the boy and hurled him over the third-story balcony. According to his own statements, he was at the mall looking for someone to kill. So naturally, the media reported this as an accident. Google is recommending you refer to it as an accident. In this incident, a black male threw a white child off the balcony, possibly to his death. We don't know yet. He's still in critical condition. The media reports this was just an accident. But imagine for a moment if the races were reversed. If John Stephen Smith threw a boy named Laquan instead of Landon off a balcony, would we ever hear the end of it? Of course not. It would become a landmark case, one oft recited in America's racist history. Further evidence of how evil and terrible and oppressive the United States is. We'll explore that angle in today's video, as well as the messaging I'm seeing from some on the right about why this happened. It may be convenient, comfortable, and easy to see that this happened in the Mall of America, associate Minnesota with Islamic migrants, and try to use this as an arrow in the anti-migrant argument quiver. I understand where that sentiment comes from, but in this case, it doesn't apply. Mr. Aranda was not a migrant nor a refugee, nor do I believe he was even Muslim. He was simply an African American. If he wasn't motivated by jihad, like some boomer conservatives on Twitter are claiming, what motivated him? Was it simple mental illness, like the media is claiming? A psychological disturbance that caused an insatiable bloodlust? Or was there something more? Does our media, with their anti-white biases and constant propagandizing, possibly share some of the blame in this case? We'll dive into this really disgusting and sad case in today's video. But first, they can't keep you safe while you're shopping IRL, but they can keep you safe while engaging in e-commerce. It's Virtual Shield. Did you know that by installing the Facebook app on your smartphone, you are giving Facebook consent to collect your precise location history? There's a setting called Location History in your Facebook app that comes enabled by default. In order to prevent Facebook from tracking your location while the app is not in use, you have to open the app, go to Settings, choose Settings and Privacy, Privacy Shortcuts, Manage My Location settings, then turn background location off. To use social media in the current year, we have to worry about them collecting background location information. Remember, protecting yourself online goes beyond your GPS location. Apps can still track where you are and what you do online using your IP address and browsing history. To protect yourself from these threats and attacks on your privacy, use Virtual Shield VPN. Virtual Shield runs on your Android and iPhone devices. It also runs natively on PC and Apple computers, meaning it's the perfect program to protect you regardless of where you are and what you're doing online. Get 30% off Virtual Shield's awesome VPN protection this month using the promo code Allsup. virtualshield.com/Allsup today for 40% off your VPN protection. Check it out today. Can you imagine being out shopping with your child, your 5-year-old child, when out of nowhere, this guy runs up, picks up your kid, and throws him down over 3 stories, nearly 40 feet, and takes off running? All the more reason why people, especially parents, should get trained in some form of self-defense and pursue all legal means to defend you and your family. Let's start with the basics of what happened, go into Mr. Aranda's history, and then talk about the response on both sides. From FoxNews.com, quote, Mall of America suspect faces attempted homicide charge in boy's near fatal fall. Even Fox News, crazy radical Republican conservative Fox News, labels this as a fall. That's like labeling 9/11 an unexpected demolition, or labeling the Holodomor a time when some people wanted to have a snack. Talk about understatement to the point of pure distortion. Anyways, the article continues, quote, a man has been charged with attempted homicide in Friday's unprovoked attack at the Mall of America in Minneapolis that left a 5-year-old boy with life-threatening injuries. Emmanuel Deshawn Aranda, 24, has a history of mental health problems and had twice been banned from the mall, the Minneapolis Star Tribune reported Saturday. Could we get a conservative news source in this country that doesn't run cover for an attempted murderer? They're clearly trying to set up and label this guy as crazy to get him off on an insanity plea. So thanks, Fox News, for being completely useless. The boy fell 3 floors after being pushed or thrown over a railing, according to Bloomington cops. The child and Aranda were strangers, they said. Brian Johnson told a local news outlet he heard the boy's mother scream, "Everybody pray, everybody pray. Oh my God, my baby, someone threw him over the edge." From the Star Tribune, the victim's mother told police that she and her son were with a friend of hers and her friend's child outside the Rainforest Cafe when Aranda approached them. The victim's mother said Aranda came very close to them, and she asked him if the group should move. Without warning, defendant picked up the victim and threw him over the 3rd-floor balcony, the complaint said. After that, he took off running and was later arrested by police at a mall transit station while trying to get away. The media is predictably trying to defend this guy. "Oh, he was mentally ill. He couldn't control himself." Don't fall for it. Just because you lash out violently again and again and again and can't control your behavior doesn't mean you're mentally ill. Just because you destroy things and hurt people and don't want to face the consequences doesn't mean you are mentally ill. This was not Mr. Aranda's first time getting in trouble. According to the Star Tribune, Mr. Aranda is from the Chicago area, has a felony conviction for first-degree property damage, as well as a long, and I mean long, history of misdemeanors. In August 2015, reading now from Fox47News.com, quote, "Witnesses saw Aranda smashing computers on the floor of a Minneapolis library, causing about $5,000 in damage, according to a 2015 complaint. Police were called and arrested him without incident after finding him at a bus station across the street. Aranda, in that case, told authorities he got angry after he read something on the Facebook, and so smashed 5 computers, screens, and keyboards, court records show, citing a recorded statement. He said he has some anger issues and told the officer that it does not happen all the time," the complaint states. Back to the Star Tribune, also in 2015, he was arrested at the Mall of America after a police officer saw him throwing items from the mall's upper level. Aranda was ordered to stay away from the mall for a year, but he ignored the order. He was arrested at the mall weeks later for aggressively panhandling and harassing 2 women and for throwing drinking glasses at diners in a mall restaurant. And in 2014, he beat a woman working at a restaurant because he was angry he couldn't pay his bill. He then pulled a knife and threatened to stab a customer that intervened. Are you starting to see a pattern? More importantly, are you starting to see a problem? In the past, in this very country, believe it or not, people like this would have been locked up for a long time. The criminally inclined, as it were, would have been locked up and the key thrown away. How many times does a violent criminal have to demonstrate they are not capable of functioning in society? 1 violent outburst, 2, 3. Apparently, there's no limit, and until you actually get to the point of almost killing someone, you're allowed to do whatever you want under this joke of a legal system with no consequences. "Oh, we can't lock any more people up. We have prison overcrowding." Yeah, I don't really care. As far as I'm concerned, we have prison undercrowding if people like this are allowed to roam free. Build more prisons. Put the out-of-work GM factory workers that Blumpf didn't save back to work welding nice big cages to throw guys like this into. If he's really mentally unstable and a threat to public safety, why is he allowed to roam the streets in the first place? Why wasn't he committed to a psychiatric hospital if he really needs help? Mr. Aranda's rap sheet is too long to go through in this video, but in the Mercury News piece linked down below, you can read through a selection of his criminal history. All of it will leave you wondering, why wasn't this guy behind bars? Well, of course, because the justice system be racist, man, and profiling, incarceration rates, private prisons, whatever. So instead of locking him up, Clown Country USA put him back on the street, back to the Mall of America, where he showed up Friday with, and I quote, quoting him, "a plan to kill." From NBC News, according to a criminal complaint released Monday, Aranda told investigators that he had formed a plan to kill someone at the mall the previous day, but that it did not work out, so he returned Friday. He said he had planned to kill an adult standing near the railing, but chose the young victim instead, according to the complaint. Aranda also told police that he had frequented the mall and began to lash out after being rejected when he tried to talk to women, according to the complaint, which said he also told police that he knew what he was doing was wrong. Just wait until a pro bono lawyer gets to him, right? Next week, he'll be claiming he knew what he was doing and he knew it was wrong, but he couldn't help himself because he needed psychological help, and the racist white privilege system just wouldn't give it to him. So really, this all happened because of white colonial racists. The media will certainly amplify that narrative if he and his defense choose to run with it. This is already being presented by major media outlets as just a fall, an accident, a horrible tragedy. Nobody except for some independent outlets and Twitter users are calling this what it actually was, a planned violent attack, and possibly even a hate crime. I want you to think of two separate incidents, this attack and the fatal James Fields car accident in Charlottesville, Virginia. Regardless of what you think about Charlottesville and the events that day, it doesn't really matter. It's clear from the video evidence that Fields was attacked while trying to exit the city, causing him to speed up and hit the car in front of him. There's also no evidence of him planning to hit anyone with his vehicle. There's no evidence the car crash was premeditated. So how does the media report that? This is universally reported as being a neo-Nazi supremacist hate crime. Some, including Ben Shapiro, even had the hubris to refer to that unfortunate car accident as a terrorist attack on his podcast the following Monday. Fields is facing life in prison, possibly even the death penalty, for accidentally running his car into someone else while being attacked with baseball bats. Okay, well, Emmanuel Aranda goes to the mall with intent to kill, by his own admission. He picks up a young 5-year-old boy, a little boy, and throws him over a balcony with the intent to kill. He admits that himself to investigators. Yet, the media all of a sudden lose their appetite for salacious, fiery headlines. All of a sudden, words like murder and violence are benched in favor of words like fall and accident. When the identities of the victim and perpetrator can't be used to push their agenda, the sensationalism is quietly put to rest. Why would the media do that? Why would they fan the flames when a white male is the perpetrator, but put a damper on the fury when it's a black perp and a young white kid as the victim? It's a question worth asking yourself. You already know the answer, of course, but if you still had any faith in the objectivity or accuracy of the mainstream media, this should shake it to pieces. Now, let's talk about how some on the right are responding to this. Legions of boomers are owning Ilhan Omar epic style on Twitter by claiming she is responsible for this because something Muslim Minneapolis owned her. That's not quite right. There's no evidence to suggest Emmanuel Aranda is a Muslim. With a name like Emmanuel, odds are pretty slim he came from a Muslim family. Also, according to reports, he was born in Chicago, so the Somali migrant theory falls flat too. I think people are drawn to these theories because they see that the perpetrator is objectively black. They see the victim's white, but they don't want to make it about race. They don't want to be called the R word. But really, aren't those two descriptors, Muslim or Somali migrant, just proxy descriptors for race? I think that people trying to make those claims should stop lying to themselves and own up to what they actually feel. There are plenty of things that could have radicalized Mr. Awanda, whatever his name is, and led him to do what he did. How about the insistence from the media that white people are evil colonizers, responsible for all the current ills that plague the black community? How about the articles in the media claiming that the world has too many white people, that it's whites who are using all the world's resources? Or how about one of America's largest TV networks openly stating that it's okay to punch and beat white people for having the wrong political opinions?
Is it all right to hit a Nazi unprovoked? There's no better way to show some speech is not equal. Some speech requires a more visceral response. It's like Overton's window.
That's right. CBS actually ran a show just last week where unprovoked violence against a white character committed by a black character is celebrated because the white guy has political views the other guy doesn't like. The media isn't just maligning their coverage of this issue. There's a very real chance their messaging and constant propagandizing led this guy, or at least contributed to this guy doing what he did. We all know that media consumption influences how people see the world. That's why the left is so concerned about the YouTube algorithm showing you channels they don't like. So who can seriously argue that the constant barrage of anti-white media doesn't lead to some people taking action like this, especially when that mainstream media is now openly calling for violence? Down below, there is a link to the GoFundMe page to help out little Landon and his family as they go through what I'm sure is a costly medical process. And I'll be keeping a watchful eye on this story, and I encourage you to as well. And I fully expect them to try an insanity plea here. We need to keep the attention on this and not let this guy off the hook. Again, there need to be some serious charges here. Minnesota judges cannot give this guy the Jussie Smollett treatment. Thanks for watching. Make sure to hit the thumbs up and comment down below what you want me to talk about next, and I will see you all next time.